Well, the police sold themselves, the first responders, police and fire. They do an excellent job. I was more concerned about their pay, and they solved that problem. They're going to get an increase in pay. The city council, they heard the people very well. I just don't see a building doing anything to slow down crime in this area. We need more policemen, and I think that once we pay them better, we'll get better. We'll get more policemen and better policemen.
The others send a pretty clear message to the council and to the administration that we don't want any higher taxes for these things. What other message does that send?
Well, years ago, my godfather told me that trees in the forest are falling. Without ears, you can't hear, but they're still falling. I don't think that they understand that the trees are falling and the people are not. Do not have confidence in city government. Do not want city government to handle the money, the taxpayers' money, because they have not been good stewards of the people's money in Shreveport. That was loud and clear, and they did not appreciate the administration and how they have handled the city of Shreveport.
Senator Tarver, this is Scott Hughes. I looked at the box count, and I agree with your comments. I think some are saying, oh, this went down because some people in some parts of Shreveport said no. But when I looked at the box counts, what I saw was in the traditional African-American community, this went basically 50-50, even in places where it won small. So, this wasn't just one part. Can you talk to us about how this bond issue is received in the African-American community, the parts where you represent, North Shreveport, parts of Shreveport?
Well, in my box, I believe 22 went forward and 100 went against. Some areas, people were concerned about streets because they're riding on bad streets in the black community. They understand the process. They understand the crime situation and everything. The parks that need repairing. They do have the money in city government to make all these repairs right now. With excess money in reserve. The African-American community were concerned. They had some people in the community, and let me tell you something. They was working the process very well. They were working hard. But it went 50-50. In some areas, they lost heavily. In some areas, they won marginally, So I think that people they were mainly concerned about crime. They're concerned about streets. We have the worst streets in the city of Shreveport in low and moderate income areas.
Senator Tarver, the last time you were on, you talked about the city has $100 million in reserve. I took a lot of criticism from people who were saying, "Oh, he's way off base. We don't have nearly that much money." Explain how, when you said we had $100 million in reserve, you sent me a document kind of explaining that. Where is all the money?
Well, some of the money is in $60 million, approximately $60 million, is in water and sewage in reserve, and it is restricted, okay? Plus, if you add up the money that he received, last year the state gave him $24 million. That is when he said he had a surplus of $24 million. Plus, the federal government gave him other monies, and he had monies in the general fund by $7 or $8 million in reserve. So, and plus, not only that, next year he's going to get money. When you add all of those pots together, and as many pots in city government, you'd be surprised how much the reserve that they have. They have close to $100 million, or $100 million plus.
Greg, you seem like a man that has studied the city budget very, very closely and know a lot about it. They're currently considering...
No. I'm concerned about the state budget. I'm not concerned about the city budget.
Oh, I know you know the state budget, but I'm impressed with your knowledge of the city budget. So they're currently today talking about a raise for fire and police, and then the issue came up about a raise for all employees. Any thoughts on how they should move forward on this raise?
I think they should move forward as fast as possible, because you got to get good policemen, good firemen out there, and you got to get more of them. You have some excellent policemen. I've always supported, since I've been in the legislature 30 years, the police, because they do an excellent job, and they put their life on the line for all of us. For all of us.
Senator Tarver, I'm going to do this right in front of Scott, because when you were on last time, He told me, do you know what I heard Senator Tarver say when he told you he was going to go to Baton Rouge? His focus wasn't on running for mayor, but he was going to go to Baton Rouge and bring back as much money to Shreveport as he possibly could. He said, I heard him say he was going to go get all that money for Shreveport to bring it back so when he's mayor, he'll have all that money to work with. Is he way off base?
I just want to get money for Shreveport to grow LSU Med School. That is the biggest problem we have up in this area. And I want to bring as much money to the city as possible because that's my job. That's what the people elected me to do. I also bring in money to the rural area for water because this area, the North Cattle Parish, is going to grow because of water and sewage.
Okay, one other thing you told us, you said all 5 bond propositions will fail, and as a result, it'll be a referendum on Mayor Perkins, and he will decide not to run for re-election. Still feel that way today?
Well, let me say this to you. The people have spoken. Without ears, you can't hear, but they're still spoken. They spoke very, very well, and if some people cannot hear, they need to get hearing aids.
How vulnerable is Mayor Perkins?
Well, let me say this. In politics, everybody's vulnerable, I think everybody's vulnerable. I think he's more vulnerable today than he was yesterday, okay, because of this. I think this was a kind of referendum on him and on his administration.
Who's going to be the city council member for District E? I know you've heard from the governor. What are you hearing now? The deadline's passed for the council to decide.
Well, I submitted Mrs. Mel Sheehy to be on the council to represent that district.
And the governor said to you what?
Well, he said that he's going to look at all of the candidates, which that's what he's supposed to do. It's his decision. Not my decision. I just made a recommendation to him, okay? Mm-hmm. And she's well known in the city of Shreveport. She worked very, very hard in the city of Shreveport for projects, for people. They've always made contributions to the city of Shreveport. Her mother was one of the greatest ladies I've ever met in my entire life.
Her mother being Virginia Sheehy. Mm-hmm. She's one of the daughters of Virginia Sheehy.
That's correct. That's correct. That's correct.
Senator Tarver, are you looking for a house in the city limits of Shreveport yet?
I'm going to tell you again, I want to be an excellent senator. I want to work for the people of District 39.